Get ready with me as I tell you about being a touring musician. Someone recently asked me how I started touring so much in Europe because I am actually from Los Angeles, which you would know if you watched my last Get Ready With Me video. It's an interesting question. When I was younger, I desperately wanted to tour. Having made music for a while now, I've played shows, especially in Los Angeles, but I have never been on a real tour until about a year ago. Last spring, I went on my first real tour opening for this incredible artist named Cloudy June. She is a German artist, so a lot of the shows were in Germany and throughout Europe. My first tour ever was in Europe, which is really crazy and very, very cool. A lot of people wonder how you get on tours as an artist, especially your first tour. In December of 2022, I was just on Instagram and I saw that Cloudy June had followed me. And I recognized her name because she had been on my related artists on Spotify in the past. I had heard her music before and I really, really liked it. I went to go follow her back, and as I was looking at her Instagram, I saw that she had just announced a tour for the following spring. I really wanted to tour. I had no touring experience, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna cold DM her. The same way that I got my sessions when I was first starting out as a writer, that is how I started out getting tours. So I DM'd her and I said, hey, I'm a fan of your music. I just saw that you're going on tour in Europe, and if you haven't found support yet, I would love to be considered. She responded and was like, wait, this could be so perfect. Let me talk to my team and get back to you. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Big lesson here. DM the person. You never know what's gonna happen. So she responded and said that could be great. I was excited. And it was the holidays, and so I didn't really hear from her, but I had told my manager that I had DM'd with her and just said, you know, if you know anybody on her team, you should reach out to them and just follow up. I came back from the holidays in the new year, and sure enough, I had gotten an email from my manager and they had offered me a couple of dates on her tour. So I got to go on my first tour ever in Europe, and it was amazing. And I got to open for somebody who I consider a good friend of mine now. And I remember when that tour wrapped up, I was really emotional because I had the most amazing time ever. And I was like, what if I never get to tour again? Like, what if this is it for me? So my next tour actually came about in a pretty similar way. I was on social media and I saw that a band called We3 had liked some of my videos. This is a band that I had heard of before because their videos were always popping up on my social media. I knew that they sang about a lot of the same things that I like to sing about. I saw that they had just announced a tour in Europe. So again, I shot my shot and I cold DM'd them and I said, hey, my name is Morgan and I'm an artist and I love your music. I just got off tour with Cloudy June and I would love to be considered for support for your tour. Didn't hear anything back from them, and I was kind of like, well, that's that. It's not gonna happen. And then I was in an airport and I was checking my DM requests, which I don't always do. So I guess the moral of the story is definitely check your DM requests. And I had a request from somebody whose name I didn't recognize. It said, hey, I manage We3. We would love to have you support on their 26 city tour this fall. And my first thought was like, is this legit? So I looked up who their managers were, and sure enough, this was their manager. So I called my manager and I was like, oh my God, I just got offered direct support for We3 for their entire fall tour. And then we started discussions about the logistics. On the Cloudy tour, it was a pretty short tour. I think it was maybe 12 dates total. I was in a van with my guitar player and musical director, Alex, and my parents came for the majority of it to help me sell merch and stuff. But this was a much longer tour. This tour was almost 6 weeks, and they had a tour bus. We were able to get on their tour bus, and that was my first time ever living on a tour bus. It was more shows than I had ever done. We went all over Europe. I got to see a lot of the people that I had met on the Cloudy June tour. It was just a crazy experience. It's so hard to do eyeliner and talk. Oh my God. Pause doing my eyeliner and I'm coming back. Okay. Eyeliner is done. So this was my first time living on a tour bus, and there was all these things that I didn't know about. First of all, there was probably 15 of us living on the bus, and we all live in bunk beds. Our tour bus was a double-decker tour bus because in Europe, that's kind of the norm. So downstairs was a lounge and the little kitchen and a bathroom. And then upstairs was all the bunk beds. And there was also another lounge upstairs. And all of the bunks have these curtains for privacy. Basically, we would go do a show, and then you would have us call at, midnight or 1 a.m. And then we would drive all night and we would wake up in the next city. I would always make sure that I was out going to get a coffee and going for a walk. You shower at the venues, which not a lot of people know. Your dressing room kind of becomes your home for the day. I was so grateful that We3, they were such incredible people and their whole team was just so lovely. It is certainly weird to live on a bus. I would wake up in so many different places and I wouldn't know where we were. And the way that I would figure out where we were is by checking my phone and looking at the weather. And it would say, current temperature in wherever I was. There was one time I remember where I woke up and I had a little window in my bunk. I opened the curtain to the outside and it looked like we were in a parking garage. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I checked my phone and I didn't have any service. So the weather wasn't loading, the city wasn't loading. And I was like, this is so strange. I got all dressed and I was about to leave. And John, our bus driver, was like, Morgan, you can't leave. We're on a ferry. We're in the middle of the ocean. That's why I had no service, because while we were all asleep, we had driven onto a ferry in our tour bus. We were still on the ferry by the time I woke up. So that was just crazy. Yeah, so that was the We3 Tour. Around that same time, my manager had been chatting with the manager of X Ambassadors, and X Ambassadors was getting ready to go on this big world tour, and they were looking for support for the European leg. And at that point, I was on my second European tour. And while I was on tour with We3, I got the official offer to open for X Ambassadors at the start of 2024. I remember being so excited, but also so overwhelmed, because I got that news within the first few days of the We3 tour, and I knew I still had like multiple weeks left on that tour. I was also so sick. So mentally, I'm like, oh my gosh, I still have 20 more shows to do on this tour. I'm so sick. I am taking medication. I'm not talking so that I don't lose my voice. And now I'm getting ready to commit to another month-long tour. And I remember I got the email with the X Ambassadors offer just after landing in like Belgium or something, because I hadn't gotten on the tour bus yet. So I had flown to Belgium and I landed and I got the email. I always kind of hold my breath when I get a tour offer until it's announced, because to me it's like until it's announced or until I'm on the plane on the way to the start of the tour, I like kind of don't believe that it's real. It's just such a dream come true for me. I've been a fan of X Ambassadors for so long. This was like a huge moment for me and I was just genuinely so excited. On the X Ambassadors tour, which was also in Europe, so that was my third time touring Europe within like a year. This time I was in a van again. It was myself and Alex, my guitar player, and I had picked up a couple of new people. On the We3 tour, I met my friend Kat. She came with us on this tour. Also, we got a photographer, and her name is Faye, and she's become like a staple in my touring crew. I'm like, I must have her with me at all times. And it was such an amazing tour because I felt like I really had a family on the road with me. Even though we were just in a van and we were driving all day and it was exhausting, it was just so special. Our schedule was basically, we would go to sound check around 3 p.m., get ready at the venue, we would do the show, then we would sell t-shirts and do the meet and greets and everything, pack up, drive to a hotel, sleep for a few hours, and then we would drive for like 8 hours, get to the next city, do the sound check, not even usually have time to check into our hotel before the show. So we'd be checking into the hotel at like midnight or 1 a.m. and then doing it all again the next day. It was pretty intense. It was a lot of shows in a row. It was the biggest rooms I had ever played. It was just so fun, and they're memories that I will never ever forget. I got to see even more people that I knew from the previous 2 tours. I had a crazy night where we slept on a ferry and we drove our van onto this ferry, which ended up being like a cruise ship. It was just an incredible time, and I also learned so much opening for X Ambassadors because they're such seasoned professionals. I feel like I've just gotten really lucky in terms of all of the people that I've had the opportunity to open for have been such good people and so generous with their knowledge. So I've like learned so much from them. It's shown me how I want to be as the headliner and how I want opening acts to feel if they're coming on tour with me. Now I'm heading on my first headline tour, the This Is For Life tour, and I'm really excited to hopefully give my openers the same kind of experiences that I've had opening for so many other amazing people. It's just a crazy thing getting to go around the world, and I'm so grateful. It really is my dream come true. And that's not to say that it's all sunshine and rainbows. There's definitely parts that are hard, away from your family for an extended period of time. The time change is hard, but I think it's all so worth it to just get to see people in person. It's just like the coolest thing ever. I hope that was interesting. If you have any other questions about touring, let me know and I'll make a video on it. And I love you so much. Bye.